It's event season. That means it's time for our predictions on what to expect from Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo over the next few months. That's coming up next on Next Gen Console Watch after these messages. Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following everything happening with the latest gaming hardware. I'm Damon Hatfield, and we've got all three console platforms represented today. Ryan McCaffrey from Podcast Unlocked, Max Scoville from Podcast Beyond, and Logan Plant from Nintendo Voice Chat. Welcome all. And we are about to head into event season for the games industry. The next few months will be filled with showcases, conventions, game reveals, release date reveals, trailers. Seems like there's something new every week during the summer. Event season really kicks off with IGN Live on June 7th and 8th. You should come hang out with us that weekend, catch live tapings of all of our podcasts, play unreleased games, walk away with tons of free stuff. I'm not kidding. We have over 20,000 items to give away, ranging from stickers, plushies, and t-shirts to full-on gaming PCs for real. Plus, that Sunday, June 8th, is the next big Xbox showcase. Ryan will be hosting a special episode of Unlocked. We'll have a big watch party where we all watch the showcase together. Then Ryan and crew will be reacting to all the big reveals and who knows, maybe joined on stage by an interesting face or two. We'll have to see. Get your tickets for IGN Live at IGN.com/live and use promo code NGCW for a special discount. All right. Ryan, since Xbox is currently the only console platform with an announced summer showcase, let's start with you. It's been a good year for Xbox already. Maybe not for hardware, but that's increasingly neither here nor there. In December, it released Indiana Jones and the Great Circle for Xbox and PC. It was phenomenal. Now it's on PS5, where even more players can check it out. In January, it surprise released Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. In February, it had Avowed, which I think is highly underrated. Lowly underrated. What it means is you should play Avowed. And just last week, we got the fantastic Doom, The Dark Ages, another of my favorites this year. So looking ahead, what are you predicting we see at the June 8th Xbox Showcase, Ryan?
Well, I've got a few things on the list. I'll give you the layup first, the absolutely 99.9% going to happen, which is a release date for Ninja Gaiden 4. You mentioned Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. They, of course, also surprise announced Ninja Gaiden 4, said it was coming this fall. Now we know there's no Grand Theft Auto 5 this fall, so assuming that development is on track, we should get a date for exactly when later in this year that we're going to be returning to action with Ryu and finally getting back to Ninja Gaiden after all these years. So can't wait for that. Moving along, though, into some more bold predictions, or at least less obvious ones. There's a couple of studios, couple of projects that are... It's time to hear from them. Like, it's been a long time. One of those, I feel like, Damon, you've mentioned before, and that is a little game called Contraband, which I'll bet half of our audience will probably be like, what? Because it was literally mentioned once. We had a cinematic teaser trailer for it in, according to my notes, 2021. So it's been 4 years since that one was announced. It was described as a co-op smuggler's paradise set in the fictional world of 1970s Bayan. And it's pretty much time for that game to either put up or shut up, in the sense that we haven't heard about it being canceled. So if it's not canceled, it's got to be time to show something there. That's from Avalanche, who's a very well-respected developer. Of course, Just Cause being their big series. So that, I think we will see at this year's Xbox Showcase. And then speaking of projects, developers who it's time to hear from, it feels like it's time to announce Double Fine's new game, because Psychonauts 2 was also released in 2021. So not also released, but that was the last time we heard from him. So it's been a long time for Double Fine, and it feels like it should be time to find out what the next project is from there. I'll go with a couple more here. I'll go through quick since we know we have other consoles to cover. But Forza Horizon. Fable gets all the glory these days because that's also Playground Games, but they have two teams. There's the Forza Horizon team and the Fable team. And again, 2021. IGN's, in this case, 2021 Game of the Year. Forza Horizon 5. It just came out on PS5. It was the number 2 selling game. 2021's Forza Horizon 5 was the number 2 selling game in the month of April. because of the release on PS5. So strong reception there. That franchise is awesome and clearly very healthy. And it does seem like it's time. Now, this one, they tend to show Forza Horizon and ship it in the same year. So I'm not quite as confident in this prediction. I could see maybe this one pushes to next year, but it could very well be time for Forza Horizon 6 to get announced. And then I'll just give you one more here. And it's another one. This one has been announced, but haven't seen or heard from it in quite some time. And that's the next one from Rare, who, of course, continues to have a ton of success with Sea of Thieves. But Everwild. Everwild, I actually had to go back and remind myself, was announced in 2019, so 6 years ago at this point. And it was last shown off in 2020. So the word around the campfire is that game kind of got rebooted and rethought, but either way, it's been a while. So if that thing's still happening, this feels like the year that we're finally going to see it.
Interesting. So we know there's a couple of big ones that we've actually seen, and some of them have even been given a release window. I speak of like something like Fable, which got pushed into 2026. You don't think it's time to actually show some meaty gameplay from that?
I think it depends on when in 2026 it's coming out, because if they pushed it a year and it's going to be fall of 2026, we know it's not coming out around the middle of the year because it's not going to go near GTA. May. So it's either early 26 or late 26, really. And if it's late 26, then I could see them holding it for next year's Xbox showcase when they can show off pretty much the final game, some really polished gameplay. Whereas if it's late 26, it might be a little early to show off gameplay there. I mean, I'd love to see it, Damon. I mean, we've seen snippets and we know it's gorgeous. That much is clear, but we don't really know how it plays and what sort of an actual stretch of gameplay looks like. So if it's early 26, then yeah, I think there's a decent chance we might see Fable, but I'd call it more of a coin toss on the Fable side overall right now.
I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Ryan, but this is true. I looked this up. Tomorrow, May 22nd, is exactly Perfect Dark's 25th anniversary.
Nice. Oh, that's cool.
And that's a game that they've been working on a long time. I think that was announced in 2020, the reboot. We actually got to see that last summer. I believe it was at their showcase. Man, I would love to like get a release date for Perfect Dark.
I'm with you. That was my favorite thing from their showcase last year, just because it seems like exactly the kind of game I love. And I think you and I were pretty well on the same page with that one, Damon. So the reason I'm not quite as optimistic that we'll see that at this year's showcase is because when they showed it last year and finally showed us gameplay, they didn't put a year on it, which told me that it wasn't 2025, because of course at the time it was 2024, which means 26 or later. So yeah, I think we might have to wait a little longer to see Perfect Dark again. But again, if you're right, I will happily cheer it on when they show it.
Yeah. And finally, keep hearing lots of things about new hardware, a handheld from Xbox. Think it's time for them to say anything about their long rumored handheld?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if the showcase is where they would do that. And you're referring to the more or less, I guess maybe confirmed isn't the right word, but the pretty substantially leaked, the third party officially licensed handheld.
Yeah.
And given that it's third party, given that it's an optional piece of hardware, I honestly don't know if their showcase is going to be the place that they would show that off, or if they would just have a separate event later. So I don't know. That one, I would lean towards it not being a part of this, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it was.
Okay, Logan. Xbox has not announced any support for the Nintendo Switch 2 yet, but we know that that's inevitable. What Xbox games would you expect or hope to see announced for Nintendo's new console?
Yeah, I think the biggest domino from Xbox is yet to fall, and that is Halo, and I would love to see the Master Chief Collection on Nintendo Switch too. I mean, rumors of Halo on a Nintendo platform date back. Remember those Nintendo DS Halo rumors from like 2005?
That was real.
Come on, let's make it happen 20 years later. Master Chief Collection on Switch 2 would just be a perfect fit to introduce Nintendo fans to one of my favorite franchises ever.
Yeah, I agree, especially with the mouse-like support included with the new Joy-Cons.
Yeah, that'd be great.
There it is. Yep, that's Halo for DS, which was real, just was never released. What could have been? Oh, what could have been? Max, this time of year, Sony typically has a PlayStation State of Play. Not announced for this year yet, but if they follow suit as they normally do, what would you expect and hope to see from PlayStation?
Hopefully, I Ghost of Yōtei. I mean, I feel like right now there's been some fatigue on Sony's whole push to live service games. I feel like there have been more failures than successes. The big update for Helldivers 2 just dropped, and people are flocking back to that, which is cool. But at the same time, you know, I feel like Concord is still fresh in a lot of people's memories. And yeah, Ghost of Yōtei feels like a return to form for a first-party Sony game, and I know a lot of people are looking forward to it. Obviously, the fall just cleared up schedule-wise in terms of GTA getting pushed, so you know, a big, huge, beautiful samurai open world to run around is that's a nice option. And obviously, there's interest there. People really loved Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I think this is a rising tide raises all ships kind of situation where it's not just more of the same. It's what people want to play. At the same time, though, I could see this getting kicked down the road a little bit further to a time when it doesn't need to share the conversation with anybody else. Like that's the whole issue with, announcing an event like this or, around the time of a would-be E3 or a Gamescom is that you have to compete for everyone's attention. And I could very easily see Sony maybe teasing a state of play down the road a little bit that is entirely focused on Ghost of Yōtei. Mm-hmm. Maybe they just want to sit on it till it's a little bit closer. Selfishly, I want to see this. I'm excited for it, but I don't know. Could go either way. The other one is, the other big fall game is Marathon, which is, Bungie's extraction shooter that had an alpha a little while ago. I could see them announcing a beta or dates for a beta so people can get their hands on this because, again, it really, it lives or dies based on the time people get with this. And one lesson I really, really hope Sony learned from Concord is just let people get their hands on the thing. Like Concord had they had a beta or alpha or whatever, but like Sony skipped Gamescom. They didn't have any, they could have had demo stations to let people play this new game they're showing off. And I feel like Marathon should learn from those mistakes and they should just get it in front of as many people as possible, make it as easy to get hands on with this game as can be. That said, again, live service fatigue. We just got word that Jade Raymond has left Haven Studios, the studio that's working on Fair Games, which is one of the many live service projects in the works. That was supposedly slated for 2025, and we haven't heard anything aside from, the CEO stepped down, and there's rumors that it may get kicked to 2026, which would not surprise me in the least. Yeah. But yeah, might be nice to get a better idea of what this is. Not to keep harping on Concord, but that also had a CG trailer for like a year and a half. And then they were like, here's gameplay and it's out soon. Bye. So maybe get some people's attention about this if it is in fact still happening and give us an idea of, what does the gameplay loop look like? The CG trailer is very slick, but it's also, we've fallen for that one before. Other big stuff we know is on the horizon. Really soon, Death Stranding 2. That's happening in just a matter of weeks. That's one of those ones where it's so close to coming out that I feel like they're not going to spend a ton of time on it. Yeah. I think it would be cool if they had a trailer that made a little bit more sense than the ones we usually get. I know that there's the Kojima cut that we get. Like we just got a trailer most recently that was like 8 minutes long, which is not a trailer. That's just a lot of footage put together. So maybe something that had some other marketing department eyes on it and is a little more gives a better idea of what we're actually looking at in terms of what the game is. That said, I've always been burned by launch trailers for Kojima games that just show off way too much late game content, and they're like, oh, by the way, here's the last boss, and you're like, you could have just skipped that part, didn't need to show that. But yeah, that one's coming right at us. As for what's on the horizon, there's Saros, the Housemarque game, starring Rahul Kohli, which he's been teasing out some photos. I think he just went and visited their studios. This one got a very gorgeous CG trailer. This is a spiritual successor to Returnal.
Yep.
We know what Returnal is in terms of a gameplay loop. People love that. Feels like a good time to show off some gameplay here. Give us an idea of when it's on the way. This is again a 2026 game, so maybe more of a reveal than just some sizzle. That said, there's plenty of third-party stuff that could be waiting in the wings. I'm hoping we see a new Resident Evil something. Resident Evil 9 feels like we're due for that one. If there's any kind of cadence to go on, we kind of bounce between a remake and a new game, and 9 is the next one in the queue. And I have no idea what to expect from that. We know it's in development, but a big old reveal would be cool. I like Resident Evil. I would love to play it. If that does get revealed, I could very easily see that being like a Q1 game next year. If Capcom's kind of staked out that time slot, and cleaned up accordingly. There's a whole lot of games that Sony has been showing off at various states of play that involve swords. They kind of look like Souls-likes or just big open world action RPGs. In no particular order, there's Phantom Blade Zero, there's Onimusha Way of the Sword, there's Where Winds Meet, there's Tides of Annihilation. There's honestly quite a few of these. They all look gorgeous, and I would not blame anyone for kind of getting them mixed up. I feel like at least one of those ones I just mentioned could get shown off.
So which one is this? Which one are we looking at?
I think this is Where Winds Meet.
Okay.
But again, any guesses? I didn't do any refresh. I just kind of.
We need to do a refresher.
Exactly.
We need to do a refresher.
This is Phantom Blade Zero. Apologies for not getting that. They all look cool, but they all look cool in a very similar way. There's also what is it? Crimson Desert, the Black Desert Online open world thing. There's a ton of games that we've seen Sony courting a bunch of Asian studios, and we're getting getting games out of China and Korea. They just revealed like an indie game out of India. So it's kind of cool to see studios from different territories throwing their hat in the ring and getting some backing from Sony to really take advantage of the PS5. And I'm excited to see some more games like this. And I wouldn't be too mad if there were some other recognizable IPs popping up, but. Yeah, as far as the first party slate goes, like I don't know. I'm going in with low expectations because Sony has been leaving a bit to be desired lately.
True.
Is Wolverine that far off in your mind, Max, that you don't even think it's on the table?
I am so tired of waiting around for Wolverine. How many of these episodes have we done where we talk about Wolverine?
Yeah. Well, that was revealed in 2021. So
yeah, it's been a while.
I would love to be wrong. I would love to be surprised by that. I think that would be wonderful. But again, I'm just kind of like, it's waiting for Godot at this point.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, well, last but not least, Nintendo. Logan, Nintendo's about to release the whole new console, Switch 2 and Mario Kart World. So probably not going to have a big direct, right around launch. However, they did announce that returning to Gamescom in August. It's been a couple of years since they were at Gamescom, so they'll definitely want to be, getting people hands-on time with the Switch 2. So it could be maybe a direct around that time or September. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that they'll stick to their cadence. They always have a direct in September, pretty much. They usually do one in June, but like you mentioned, Damon, I don't think they're going to this time. I think if we're talking Nintendo's big summer showcase, it already happened. It was the April 2nd Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, where they revealed Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, and a lot more. But they do have a lot more information they need to give us later this year. Maybe around Gamescom. I wouldn't be surprised if what they bring to Gamescom is just Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza. I know in 2023, when they went to Gamescom, they brought Tears of the Kingdom, which had already been out for 5 months at that point. So yeah, they just like to get people hands-on with their latest, greatest, exciting thing. But there is a lot they need to tell us. We need release dates for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, Pokemon Legends ZA, Kirby Air Riders, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, and Dragon Drive. Those are the 5 remaining Nintendo-published games for 2025 that we don't yet have dates for. So if you look at the calendar, we got Mario Kart World in June, we have Donkey Kong Bonanza in July. Then there's 5 months left, and Nintendo pretty much likes to publish one game a month. So in terms of a big surprise, there's still people hoping for a big 3D Mario later this year. I don't think so. I kind of think we're looking at what we have. Yeah, everybody on this panel is hoping for that big 3D Mario, but I don't think it's coming. I think that the big quote-unquote fall games Pokemon's going to sell huge. That's going to be a big seller on Switch 1 and Switch 2, but the Switch 2 is the big holiday game, which means Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza are the big holiday games still for new adopters to that console that didn't find one at launch, that will pick it up in November or December. And I just think that when I look at 3D Mario, it is the 40th anniversary of Super Mario Brothers this year. So that gives me some pause that maybe they want to celebrate that, but Nintendo's fine skipping over anniversaries if they don't have a product to promote for it. And I just think in terms of thinking about the holiday season cycle and this huge Donkey Kong push we're seeing with Bonanza, the big redesign, the new theme park opening in Orlando this week, I just don't think they want to trample over Donkey Kong Bonanza's sales and momentum by overshadowing it with a new 3D Mario later this year. So I guess my big prediction is we already kind of know everything we're getting.
Ryan, are you okay?
Exciting, but
are you okay now that Logan has dashed our hopes and dreams about next?
No, I
3D
mean,
Mario?
short answer, no. This is I've been waiting 8 years now since Odyssey, which is still just an absolute masterpiece of a video game, and it's astounding to me that Nintendo is waiting this long between mainline 3D Mario games. Don't get me wrong, it's better that than them just pumping out something mediocre every year like clockwork. But it is kind of wild that Nintendo is willing to take the number one thing in the entire portfolio and just only do a main 3D platformer once a decade, basically.
Really, really excited for whenever the follow-up to Odyssey is announced. Well, one thing is for sure, we are in for a very exciting 3 or 4 months ahead, and you'll be able to catch all of these big gaming events right here at IGN. But dear viewers, we want to know, we have a poll for you to vote on for next episode. What is your most anticipated summer 2025 game? Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Death Stranding 2, Tony Hawk 3 and 4 Remastered, Metal Gear Solid Delta, or maybe Mafia of the Old Country. Make sure to vote at IGN.com the day this episode goes live, and we'll share the results with you next week. And I wanted to remind you that over at Humble, you may want to check out the Xbox Game Studio Publisher Bundle. For just $5, you get Broken Age, Sunset Overdrive, and Battletoads. For $10, you get those 3 games, plus Wasteland 3, Quantum Break, As Dusk Falls, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and Age of Empires Definitive Edition. And as always, proceeds go to charity. And that's our show. Thank you to Ryan, Max, and Logan for joining me today. Thank you to everyone working behind the scenes to make this episode possible. My name is Damon. We'll be back next week with more on the latest in gaming hardware. We'll see you then. This episode of Next Gen Console Watch was produced by myself, Damon Hatfield, and Jobert Atienza. Technical direction is by Jobert Atienza, with technical production by Marian Franzen and Amir Rakib. Audio engineering is handled by Amir Rakib. Post-production editing is by Jobert Atienza, and graphic design is by Justin Vachon. Next Gen Console Watch is an IGN production and part of the Geek Media Network.